Hey guys, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews, and some time ago we did this build in the Silverstone RL06, but it was perhaps a little bit more on the safe side, a bit boring looking. So I've got your back. This video we're going to taste the rainbow fully. I've got this Silverstone RGB care package, and I've got this new case, the Silverstone RL07. So let's get started on building this RGB build. Step one, obviously we need to take off all the bits and pieces from the RL06, which I actually cut up a GPU just to make it fit in this case, but let's just swap cases anyway. I really liked this case. It was a bit of a smaller thing. Oh, it's really dusty. This dust filter really did a job. But yeah, I really liked this case for a number of reasons. It was relatively compact. It was quite stylish looking. It wasn't like the most boring with this, like all the red accents here on the front. So I really liked this case from that standpoint. And it was great for airflow and for cooling. But, you know, it was, as some say, a bit boring. I read that in the comments. So I'm really happy that now we can, you know, spice it up a little bit. So as you can see, last time I did like a super clean job on the cable management. Or at least as clean as I could using these extenders, but as we'll see in a bit, I'll no longer have to use these extenders, so that's going to be awesome. But first, let's just strip everything down. Alright, so with all the old hardware out, let's show you the new stuff. First of all, Silverstone really packages their stuff well. So what we have, first of all, to replace the power supply, I now have a Silverstone Strider Platinum. So this is an 80 plus platinum power supply. It's got like black cables, no sleeving though, but it's just like black cables, so that makes it really easy to implement into basically any build. Comes with dual GPU support, 8 SATA powers, 6 Molexes, even 2 floppies for whatever reason. So this is going in. Really looking forward to it. Hopefully it's going to be really quiet and really powerful so that I can get some better overclocks going on. But then, first up I have an 8-way RGB controller unit. So I can hook up 8 RGB strips or fans or whatever. 8 RGB devices can be controlled from this little box. That's going to be awesome. Now, of course, what am I going to use it with? Well, in this box is already 2 30cm RGB strips, but I also have these. So these are like fan brackets, so you don't get your fingers in there, but they're also RGB, as you can see on the back of the package. So I have 3 of these in 120mm size and 3 of these in 140mm size. So these are the 140mm ones. These are rather big. It's gonna hopefully, you know, shoot a lot of light everywhere so that we can go full rainbow on our build. And because the 2 included strips aren't enough, I have a 3rd strip over here. Now, of course, we're going to need something to put all this stuff in. So I have the RL07, which is also really well packaged. So yeah, I really need a good unboxing knife. So if any of you knows like a good unboxing knife, let me know, I'll buy one. Because I've been using the same old cheese knife for like a really long time. And you probably shouldn't be using like cheese knives to cut open boxes anyway. So I have the white version of the case here, because the white's gonna go really well with the white on my motherboard over here. So this is like white, and then I have a white case, and all the RGB lights are gonna hit on the white and they're gonna color the entire case up. It's gonna look epic. Of course, these things get stuck. There we go. Right, that looks epic, guys. So, first impressions on the RL07 tempered glass, of course. It looks super nice. Let me get the camera slightly better though. Alright, so unlike the 06, this is actually a very glossy white. Also something I notice, no thumb screws here, so the glass panel is held in place with just 2 thumb screws, which hopefully should make the build a lot faster to do. There's still protective plastic on the outside. There's no more protective plastic on the inside, and there's this lovely little hinge. So I think, oh yeah, no, it will fall off, but it's a much better system already than with the previous case that I was using. It's also nice and thick glass, so that's interesting. Let's try not to break it. On the inside, still the Silverstone logo up here. I kind of like it. Nice and shiny, rubber grommets, a lot of room. So I probably didn't have to cut my graphics card if I used this case to start with. There's also room here. So there's a cutout in the front of the case. So if you're going to use like a bigger radiator, you can fit that in there. And I really like the texture and the look and feel of the front, because there are all these like black accents here, and you know, very subtle logo, but it's nice and angular, kind of looks quite hardcore. Something that I perhaps don't like as much is that there's this cable to hook up to the front, because the front of course has lights, and there's a little cable that doesn't disconnect here. That's maybe a little bit of a negative. Dust filtered front, 120, 140 millimeter support. Basically all that you could possibly wish for. Looking at the back, actual metal thumb screws this time. Like nice and shiny thumb screws instead of normal screws with plastic around them. So yeah, so far I'm really digging the RL07. Side panel is a bit flexy, but that's okay. Let's have a look. See, this is why I don't like when the cable is connected. Hopefully I didn't break any connections, but I think we'll be fine. Also, I just noticed I'm breaking a lot of stuff. There was a little magnet in the dust filter, but it came off. So let's have a look on the other side of the case. So we have triple SSD mounts. Oh, that's nice. Look, it's like little clips here and then it just rotates out of the way. That's nice. I don't really know where the cables are going to go, but should be fine. Triple hard drives and room for a power supply. And again, a god-awful Molex connector. Silverstone, if you're watching, say the power please. Molex sucks. And now we do have Velcro straps as well here, and zip tie points all around the motherboard tray. So yeah, let's put some stuff inside this case. So far we're really ticking all my boxes off. So 140mm rather high quality PWM fan at the rear with room for 120s of course as well. But look at this. We now have a raised power supply and some really lovely looking feet. So, you know, it's going to elevate. Now, there's no ventilation here, so it's going to have to come from the front and the rear. But this is quite a lot better looking than with the RL06. We actually get decent feet on here. What we do have to do is put in our own motherboard standoffs. Okay, we're in. Now, I don't quite know yet how I'm going to deal with the RGB stuff on the fans. So obviously, with this being an RGB build, I'm going to need to put RGB fans on here. And now there is no room here for push-pull either, so there's just a finger. Let me just rotate everything. So you still can't see it. So over here there's just like a finger, so I can't put another, I can't go push-pull this time, which I couldn't realistically do last time as well. The reason the radiator has to sit in here is because there is I/O stuff going on at the top, and that is limiting space a little bit. I also have to check up on the front panel. So this front panel, when you look at it, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So we can't put fans inside the front panel. So that's going to be a little bit tricky then, because that definitely means I can't go push-pull on this case. So yeah, it's just going to be pull, and let's see if I can put the RGB brackets on here. Alright, so I have some other fans. So basically the way this works is you have your fan. On top of your fan you put this little Silverstone FG141 RGB thing, like so. This lines up perfectly. It, provides some help with cables not hitting the fan blades. And then you put a screw through like this. I had a quick look. I have about, don't know if you guys can see this, but I have about 1.5 turns left on the screw. Hopefully it's going to be enough. Hopefully it's also not going to create too much turbulence in the air so that my system doesn't get loud, because if it makes my system loud, it is going to go out no matter how shiny it is. So let's first install these. Now, something I noticed is, once again, I can't really screw in all 4 or all 8 of my radiator screws. The top ones won't line up because there's I/O and I have end tanks going on this radiator. So I'm going to have to install the fans first and then position the radiator later. Right, and just like that, we're done. So something I noticed is this case does not have top ventilation, but there's still, like, I'd say this is 45 millimeters of clearance. So that's handy for installing large air coolers. And this case definitely has support for those giant air coolers. So thumbs up there, Silverstone. Love it so far. And you might say that it's going to run hot because there's no top ventilation. From my experience, I've learned that it's better to have all your airflow in like a single direction instead of having it like go all sorts of ways. So it should be fine cooling wise. Let's continue with the build. Now the next part of our build is going to be the power supply. I have been using an SFX Silverstone Strider power supply in Project 1. So I'm really looking forward to how this one performs, if it's as loud as the one in Project 1. It's fully modular, and it's like, this is packaging. Like, guys, this is going to arrive in one piece. That's awesome. So look at that, nice and bright yellow warning sticker. What does it say? The power supply fan will only spin under certain loads or temperatures. Awesome, so it should be silent. This is probably going to drop straight in. The thing is, you might want to, also it's pretty compact, isn't it? But we're going to install the cables first. Now, I was not going to show this bit, but it's actually really cool. The power supply has both normal screws and thumb screws, so you can choose which sort of screw you want to use. So I'm just going to go with the thumb screws. It's actually the first time that I see a company include this. That's pretty awesome. Alright, so I went and installed the motherboard, some of the RGB stuff, cables, all that stuff, and I noticed this really weird GPU retention mechanism. So Silverstone only installs these two standard, and then you use the same screws as for your motherboard standoffs. What you have to do in order to install a GPU is undo these two screws first, and you have to take them out all the way. It's not like this is on like a little sliding rail or something. It makes everything like super neat and tidy and, you know, all those things here at the back. But at the same time, it also just gives you a lot of extra work, because we just undid two screws. Now we have to do another two, which is probably why they only installed two of them in the first place, because otherwise you'd have to undo 9 screws just to install a graphics card. So it's a really weird mechanism. It's not my favorite. Now you can rotate this off, so like this rotates. So why isn't it just a single thumb screw then? And now we can take off our two PCIe covers, and we can install our graphics card again. Probably better if I put it in the right direction. So installing the graphics card is not like a big issue or anything. It fits in perfectly fine and all those things, but it's really weird, like the type of system they came up with. Okay, so it turns out you have to install the top screws first before you lock down the graphics card, because there is a bit of flex in the bracket, and if you tighten these two down first, you won't get those screws in anymore. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this mechanism. Alright, so I've done most of the cabling by now, so it's time to put in this controller box. Basically you can choose between motherboard control and whether or not this little controller box does everything. I'm going to set it to motherboard control, which means yet another thing to plug in. We still have to do the RGB strips as well, and we have like a bunch of extension cables. So first up, I'm going to need to find a spot for this thing. It is magnetic, so that makes it really easy to install. Alright, so I placed the strips. I have one here, which I have my dad's on, and maybe it is going to be a bit too visible, so I might just take it out. I also have an RGB strip here in the top of the case, so this is nicely going to light everything this way. And then I also RGB'd up the front panel, so I put two RGB strips in the front panel, and then we'll have light coming out of these vents here. It is going to be even more difficult to take the front panel on and off again. Right then, time for the moment of truth. Will it boot? Very exciting. Also, I still have to enter the BIOS to turn the RGB lights on, because I think they were off last time that I shut down the system. The fan grills are white lights, and the strips front and inside the case, those are red lights. If I set it to green, ew, that's gross. Blue kind of seems to work, but I think I have some of the, fan ones are plugged in the wrong way round. So let's see if I can fix that. Right, so a bit of a weird one. If I set it to blue the way it is right now, you know, the way it fits with this power button and the blue lights in the front of the case, so there's this cutout with the RL07 here. If I set it to blue lights, it works fine. If I set it to green lights, it works okay-ish. If I set it to red lights, it's completely off. So I first thought that it was just me being an idiot and putting on the connections the wrong way around. But the connectors are keyed, so there's no way to put them on the wrong way around. So that's super weird. So now that everything's back together, there's just one more thing to do. So satisfying. And yeah, the build is not really done. I still have to do like a bunch of cleanup, a lot of cable management, but for now, it's good enough. I can start using it. It's been a bit of a different video this week because I'm super short on time and I don't have time to test, then script, then film, then record audio, do all that sort of stuff. So the following weeks may be, you know, a bit different video-wise. But let me know if you enjoyed this one or if you think I should only do reviews. But again, I don't really have a lot of time until the end of March. So that's that. Let me know what you think about the build. Do you like RGB? Do you hate RGB? All that stuff in the comment area. And if you want more frequent updates than these weekly videos, go check out Instagram, support the channel on Patreon to help me get better equipment. And for now, massive thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.